Hello and welcome to the stream. Today we are going to be doing some Tempest PHP, and if you haven't heard of it, it is a really cool PHP framework that is still a work in progress, but it looks awesome, right? It's just modern PHP at its best. So it comes with different parts. You've got the highlighter, you've got the console, then you've actually got the framework itself. I'm going to be diving into the framework more than anything, just so that we can see how does it work. I've installed it. Let me open up PHP Storm. I've got the project here. All I've done is install it. I've made my env file. I've added an editor config and some Git attributes. Other than that, we're pretty plain. I've not really done many changes. I've got npm running because I've installed everything and everything is up and running. So we have our Tempest application. That was it. That's the stream, right? No, it's not. Let's dive into Tempest a little bit. So I'm going to assume you don't know too much about Tempest already. Obviously, it's created by Brent, who used to work at Sparsy, who now works for PHP Storm, or JetBrains technically, I think, maybe. And his latest content has been absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to lie. Really inspirational stuff. So here is the Composer JSON file. Let's zoom in a bit. We've got our namespace for the app. The only thing we're requiring is Tempest framework. I've added this line because I'm Steve. It's got PHP Stan, PHP CS Fixer, Larapack DD, and PHP Unit. We've got a couple of auto loads going on. We got the author information, we got some scripts, and we got some relatively basic stuff configured and set up. Now, our entry point is obviously the index PHP, which it typically would be, because I'm using Laravel Herd, which looks for a public index PHP to load. So we're loading in that autoloader. Then we're saying Tempest boot. This is the root path. We want to use the HTTP application, and then we want to run that HTTP application itself, and then finally exit. So run it and just exit when you're done, basically, which is pretty cool. So what do we do here? So let's start by being Steve and declaring some strict types. They'll probably complain about the require once. We want to add some named parameters here. And that's complaining because it's surrounded with try and catch. No, not that useful. Not for me, thank you. So we've got our Tempest up and running. Clearly, I haven't broken anything yet, which is a good start. We got our main CSS down there, our app. So home.view, pulling in that main.css. And we've got Tempest. Now, I'm not going to focus on this part of it. I'm not going to focus on the view layer or anything like that, because that's not me. We do have a CLI, though. So let me open up my console. Here it is. Let's just close that, and let's make sure we can kind of see what we want to do. Right. So let's just go into Tempest, and we can run the Tempest file. So as you can see, we've got a console already. We can install Tempest into the project. We can list all routes. We can serve it. Discovery status, discovery clear. We can do some migration stuff, and we can look at the schedules and the session clean stuff. So we've got a console that we can already run. So let's say discovery status. What we got? So loaded discovery classes. We've got the event bus, the mapper, initializer, route, migration discovery, command bus, console commands, routing. Got lots of stuff going on here. Folders included. I like that. It's really telling you, okay, so this is a Tempest app and this is what I've been able to find. That is pretty cool. So if we go back to Arc, let's just go to the documentation. So getting started, I've done this bit. Didn't need to do that because I'm using Laravel Herd, but you could do it this way. Don't need it as a package. Basic project here. So we can go controllers, console, view, or project structure could look like this. So again, it is kind of entirely up to you there. And then we've got attributes. All I can say is well done on that one. Attributes are the way forward. So let's look at controllers. Right, we've got controller, the core part of any web app. HTTP request routes through necessary layers to finding and return a response. That all makes sense. Everything should be invocable. It can be final read-only. We've got an attribute, and we can define the URI within there. So first things first. Let's go to PHP Storm, and let's see if we can create a controller. So inside app, I'm going to create a HTTP handlers directory, and we're just going to create a route handler. So this can be read-only, and it needs to have an invoke method. So let's say invoke. For now, I'm just going to maybe just delete those two things there. So then if I come back to Arc and come over to Tempest here, refresh, perfect, 404. So PHP Storm, what we want is, we want to get the URI is that. Does this have any additional arguments? Yes, we can also define middleware, which is pretty cool. So back to Arc, reload, uncaught type error, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so at the minute, the router is dying because I'm not doing anything, which is fine. So let's just focus on how we might return a response. So requests, then we've got responses down here. Now, Tempest controllers must return one of two objects, a view or a response. Returning a view is a shorthand for returning a successful response with that view. Returning responses can be done with the response function. So you can say response, set body, set view, set status, headers, blah, 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 flash. Full overview of response objects can be found here. So let's just open that and let's go see. Let's put that in the Tempest folder. No, not like that. Like this. Damn it. Can we separate it? Yes, we can. There we go. Right, so here is the interface for the response. So it looks like we can just return a standard response. There's a generic response that you can return. And that generic response is relatively simple. Come back to our source. Is there any helpers that we might find useful? So we can say functions. We can do a path, a view, a standard response, URI, redirect, command, and env. So all of that works, but what I want to do is a JSON response. So in the documentation, it's actually got a little bit there about response objects. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to create a responses directory here. Within here, I'm just going to create a JSON response. This is going to implement the response which means, no, I don't want to add all of that. So we can just say use is response. So that works kind of as is, right? So this will just add all of the things for us. So if we come back to Arc, what we can do is in that kind of constructor, we can tell it how it should work. So let's come back to our JSON response and let's say public function construct. And we can say this status by default is going to be a status. Okay. This can we do like an add header? So the key is going to be content type. The value will be application JSON. So in our root handler here, we can return a new JSON response. And that will return a Tempest response. So come back to Arc. Let's see what happens if we reload this now. Perfect. Still need to add many more response object implementations. It is a work in progress. So at the minute, for me, it is 20 to 11, but we're having fun. So what we want to do perhaps is maybe pass some data into here. So we could say like data is an array. So we say ping, pong, something silly and simple, right? So maybe we accept an array of data, which can default to an empty array. Then we can say this set body, and the body needs to be a JSON encode where the value is going to be data, and flags, we will just do a JSON throw on error for now. So this needs to be imported. There we go. So come back to Arc, refresh, and we got ping pong going on. Am I in Australia? No, I'm in the UK. It is UK time. So we've got an API being returned. It's a good start, right? So what else can we do? It's got a lot of middleware and fun stuff going on. So if we come back to the documentation, let's look at this. You can do root attributes. You can make your own custom root implementations. These custom root classes can be used to make root groups that add middleware, do authorization checks, etc. So what you could probably do here is maybe create some form of API route. Routes, and we'll just do like I don't know, an API route. And what that needs to do is extend route. So extends route. So then what I need to do is just in the constructor is do some stuff. So this needs to be an attribute. I'm guessing I need to like what is it? Attribute target class, I think, target class or something like that. Then attribute, we're just going to simplify that. Public function construct. That gets all of the parent stuff, blah, blah, blah. So then we've got the URI. The method is that, and then the middleware is that. So at the minute, that's kind of just doing the similar sort of thing. So if we go back and look at this, we can create our own middleware classes, which I believe should be pretty useful. So maybe HTTP, we'll go for middleware there. Within here, we can say JSON middleware. This is going to implement the middleware from Tempest, HTTP middleware, and that needs to add an invoke method. So what this should do is the response is going to be that. Eventually, we will return that response. We are going to have to type this as a response. And we can say response, add header, where the key is content type and the value is application JSON. So relatively simple there. So this API route there, this can, I don't know, we'll do like an array merge, middleware, and we will also add in the JSON middleware class like that. Just, yeah, you just watched Brent's video. Yeah, I was watching that too. It was absolutely fantastic. So let's come back to our root handler. This is in the wrong directory, so let's put it inside handlers. And what we want to do is this needs to be added to the method itself. So instead of saying get, we are going to do an API route. Let's just clean all that up quickly. Why is that complaining? Import that class. Perfect. So we can remove that get there. So then that URI is going to be that. The method is going to be method get. And let's see if that still works. Ooh, uncorked attribute cannot target methods, allow targets class. Okay, so maybe some, come back to Arc. There we go, we got that. Woo. So we've created our JSON kind of thing going on, our specific route that we might want to use. So we can say all API routes should have JSON middleware, for example. And then we can expand upon that as we need to. And we don't need to then specify anything within here. This JSON response, we don't actually need to do that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. The wife's getting the hose pipe for the kids' pool. So I don't need to add that header. Come back to PHP Storm. So I wouldn't mind a nicer way to work with like setting the body here. So what I might do is that accepts a string as a body. It'd be nice if I could do some sort of setting a screen, maybe. Then I could really leverage something like PSR 17. But maybe, you know, you can't always win, right? So root handler, JSON response, not a problem. Okay, so could throw an exception, not a big deal. Okay, so we've got like an event bus as well that we could also tap into. Obviously, the documentation isn't completely fully featured right now. Generating URIs, root binding, kind of cool, views. Let's look at models. So Models in Tempest are objects that represent the data and functionality of your application. Thanks to Tempest's map function, models can be as simple as an object, and the data could be coming from anywhere. So, database models. Since most models are persisted within a database, though, Tempest provides a trait called base model. Note this trait will probably be renamed soon. Okay. Using this trait will make it so that your model classes can be persisted from and to a database. Such model classes look like this. So it hasn't got like the database aspect in there yet, which is, that's fine. We're very early in looking at this framework. So instead of diving too deep into that, why don't we also look at the console as well? So we're going to create a console here. We're going to create commands. So I'm already starting to split up the app directory in a way that kind of works for me. That is going to make sense. So let's create a new command. And what we will do is call it something like, I don't know, we'll just say like test command. But if we come back to Arc and say get started, we've got that. That's all fine. And we can say console command is something. So building console commands. We can say console command. So you can build up this whole class and have separate methods for each console command. So Tempest will use methods parameter list to define the common definitions. For example, that will generate this. Now that's really cool. That is actually just using PHP to get the information that it needs. So let's say we got a public function handle. This is going to return something or other. So we can say console command. Can we add anything in here? So we could give it a name. So that name is going to be test. And that description is going to be the test command. So now if I come back to Warp, I can say Tempest and just see what's there. The test command. So it's picking it up straight away using reflection, and it's pretty fast. So what I can actually do is just say test, and it doesn't do anything because I don't need it to yet. So let's go have a look at Arc and see what we can do within this. So console argument, you can do lots of stuff within here. Packages all, description, aliases, help. So let's look at that input output. So every command can read and write from the terminal by injecting the console interface. So that is probably pretty useful to have on a command, right? So let's just import that, and we can make this a read-only. Come back to Arc. So we can do a read line, a read, a write line, ask, confirm, password, progress, info, error, success, when, component. Components. Now that's the fun part. So you can do an ask. This console, an ask. Lots of asks, the confirm, password. So let's do like an ask. So let's come down here and say name is equal to this console ask. The question I want to ask is, what is your name? So now let's come back to Warp. Let's run that again. Steve. Perfect. So our console command just works, right? We can ask, we can give it some options, you can do some validation stuff, confirm component, scheduling, you can add middleware, so overview, resolve, console. So what would be some useful middleware, right? I don't know. I don't know if it's already in there, but we're going to create some console middleware now. And we're going to say prim input middleware. This is going to implement middleware from the console. So console middleware. What method stubs? We've got an invoke there. So we've got the invocation and the next. So come back to Arc and let's try and understand middleware a little bit. So what can we do? What can we do with this? Help middleware, force middleware. If this console confirm, caution middleware, building your own middleware. So we need to make sure we pull in that console to start with. I kind of get the feeling that I'm going to be doing the pulling in a console quite a lot. So I would be tempted to maybe make that a trait. Maybe come over to here, say concerns, and we'll do something like a has console trait, because then we can just implement it where we need it, right? So construct, and we're going to have a protected console as the console. So then this part here, we can just remove and say use has console, and we can now access it. Our test can also say use as console. And then this part here, we can start to work with it. So we can say this console, I want to get the input. How can I get the input? Okay, so that might not be what I want. Maybe I need to say invocation. Not sure. Argument bag, get that, write something. So an instance of console attribute. Okay, so what I want to do is basically just get any arguments that are being passed in. So if I come to here, what I really need to say is this console. I just want to kind of read. And this is like the input. Read bytes, I don't know. We'll say 1,000. Then this console. Can I set anything on that one? Not really. We can do like a read line instead of a read. So maybe we'll do that. We're going to basically just read any input there. I don't know if we can save then invocation or next is the next command. So that should be a console command. Let's say command is equal to next, passing through the invocation. Then this is going to be a console command, I assume. Yes. And console command, what you can do on that is set handler, get names, serialize, unserialize, argument definitions. There's got to be a way that I can like pass something into it, right? So return command eventually. And up here, we're going to do something with it. Why is that underlined? Okay, so you don't actually need to return anything. So in this test command, we can add middleware. So let's just kind of clear this up a little bit like that. And we're just going to say that the name is that. That's a description. And we want to add the middleware as the prim input middleware. Don't need that up there. Come back to warp and let's just run it again. Read-only class cannot use trait with a non-read-only property. So we want to have console. Run it again. So, am I breaking something? Maybe I am. Maybe that's the wrong sort of middleware for what we actually want to be doing. So we'll delete that. That's not super useful. Come back down to here and we'll just say that we're not going to include any middleware right now. Handle should return a void, I guess. Come back to Arc. Yeah, returns void, so you can say this console write line, so you can do output really easily. Building console commands, you can build all of that quite nicely. Accept arguments and do what you need to. Read and write. You can schedule. Let's get anything on the middleware. Overview, force command, overview middleware. Got the components. Okay, so it's pretty good for just reading, writing, and doing what you need to do, right? So then I can say this console component okay, so I need to say this console no password, progress, search, make your own components, no, input, output, that's what I need. So I need to do like a write line, don't I? This console write line, and the line that I want to write is going to be what's up name. Something simple. Test Steve. What's up, Steve? Perfect. It's working. So what else could we possibly do here? Like, should we dig into maybe some of the core of Tempest a little bit? So if we come down to Tempest. So let's look into the core here, look into source. So we've got an application, which is an interface, and got a kernel, takes a config, it then creates a container, it bootstraps location discovery, config, and discovery stuff. It then gets everything, boots it, generic container, which is pretty cool. Setting an instance, config, singleton, blah, blah, blah. Lots of fun stuff going on there. Anything in support? No. Event and event bus. So let's look at like the event bus itself, or maybe inside core app test dependencies. Framework, inside app. We've got modules, book form, home controller. Cool. A form controller. We've got get form and we've got post form. Books, book controller. Response okay, set body, book title. Cool. Post map to book save. There's book class all the way over here. Is model. Got some validation going on. I don't think it's got too much going on in there. Or database clean. So it does have some stuff. Okay, that's pretty cool. Events, it happened. My event handler for it happened. Okay, so we can do some eventing stuff, which is kind of cool. So let's close that, and that. And let's come back up to our app, and maybe we're going to have some events. So events. request received. This is a simple event. Very simple. It happened. It doesn't actually need to do anything. And then we need a handler. So then we can have like handlers. And then we can say something like, I don't know, add timestamp to response header, something silly. And so if we come back down and look at this, not that it happened, but the my event handler a second. So we got this there, we got an event. Maybe this request received could receive the response, and we could maybe do something with it, or I don't know. I don't know what we could do with it yet. This isn't in the docs. So let's just say public function invoke request received. That's the event. We can then say event handler, which is nice. Event handler. Does it take any arguments? Doesn't even need arguments. Even better. Is there like any sort of logging? It's got PSR log apparently, so maybe there's a way to get the logger. None of those. Log, lots of logs. That's all coming from there. Inside this. Don't want to look at that. We want to look in here. We've got a clock and an application. Got an initializer. HTTP application. Let's have a look in this. We got a request factory. Response sender. Anything else within here? App config and a container. Config, command bus, database and routes. Database, discovery, exceptions. We got HTTP client going on. That's pretty fancy. We got PSR in there already. Generic HTTP client. Cool. Oh, Brent, you're making me happy with this. Then we got drivers, a PSR 18 driver. So lots of fun stuff going on within there. Testing, view, Tempest. We got the kernel, which is a class. Init. Lots of inits. Discovery, config, discovery, bootstrap. Nothing in there. I can't see any loggers going on. So maybe we need to look at how we can kind of work with logging, perhaps. Framework, console, anything in there. Can't see anything that might stand out. Core, source, support, no. Discovery, event bus discovery. So, I mean, maybe if I look at the console for, I'm assuming the framework commands, there was like a serve. So let's do a quick check for serve. Lots of stuff within there. What directory are we even looking in? Let's make sure we're looking in Tempest. Console argument. argv start a PHP development server. This is the one we want. Serve command. Pass through. Execute and blah, blah, blah. So it's just going to do that. And I'm assuming then that will output. So it'd be cool if we could have logging built in. So maybe that's something like PR later on. This isn't going to be able to access what I want it to. I don't think. Let's go and have a look at the docs quickly. Scheduling, middleware, controllers. I might have to look under Git for some of this. So if we look at like Tempest framework, for example, inside app, we've got an example. So inside controllers, test global middleware, response add header, validation controller, that's doing some stuff. Fail controller, middleware dependency, request validation. I'm not seeing the event bus. So how does the event bus actually tie into it? So it happened. Is this being used anywhere? It's only being used there. So module, posts, maybe post controller. I'm assuming we need to inject the event bus into our root handler in some way. So let's try it. Public function construct. Within here, we can have like a private event bus. We'll call that bus. And then up here, we can say this bus dispatch the command we're dispatching, or is this going to be event or command that it accepts? Event. And we're going to say a new request received. That's it. And let's just see if that works, or if it's going to throw an error. So we can look at how that works. There we go. That's doing something. So it is triggering it. And then this here, maybe we could do something like public function construct. It'd be nice to understand how I can add things to the dependency injection container a little bit. Okay, we're getting some spam on this. So please, if you're watching on Twitch, please ignore. Is there any way that we can work with the container? Come back to here. Is there anything? Tempest core, Tempest docs. Is there anything in core that might point it out? Test dependency, events, it happened, no. It'd be cool if I could kind of figure that part out, I think. Definitely. I like how we got modules, though. Posts, post request. So we can create requests. That's really cool for validation reasons. Post controller. Create post. We got post request coming in, and I'm assuming that validates it in some way. So that's really cool. Form view, form request, book. Lots of books, bookity books, store request. Yes, create book request. Cool. So it's got a lot of useful and interesting stuff already. I just think maybe documentation could be our next focus there. Let's see what we can do. So if we look in Tempest, look in the framework source, when we create a new Tempest app, we are getting the app config, creating a new HTTP application, binding the application in, passing in that exception handler and returning it. So there could be a way that we expand this a little bit. So if we come down to public index, we boot, then we go HTTP, then we go run. Boot accepts that. We then get that part there. Discovery cache, discovery locations. It would be really nice to see what we could do with some of this. Let's just collapse some of it so we can see what methods we got available. We got a kernel. Anything on the kernel, maybe. Init, create container, bootstraps, discovery. Let's config here. So it implements a bootstrap. We need this to be able to be registered in some way. Container get bootstrap kernel, this app config. There's got to be a way that you can like add your own bootstrapper, right? Because that would be really cool. It's container config. Okay. Maybe it's something I can talk to Brent about how we can figure this out to get support around that. Or maybe it's just something that needs to be added to the documentation. That might be the main thing, to be honest, because it's looking like it just works. Like I can't see anything log-wise. I don't know, maybe if I say something like this console, like use as console, and then I can say this console white line, I don't know, something, right? This is probably going to complain in some direction or some way or other. So let's just see what it does. The warp, nothing in warp, PHP unit, nothing in there because there's no active console running. So now if I Tempest serve instead, and we go to this URL, come back to PHP Storm, we can kind of log to the console. What happens if I do that? Come back to Arc, refresh that, come back to PHP Storm. So we can log things to the kind of general log in the console for the running application, but that's about it right now. I definitely think there's a way that we could do some logging, but I think that might be something that we need to PR perhaps. Let me know what you think. This is more of an experiment than anything right now. But we know we've got the event bus. We know we can work with the event bus. It will just inject itself with no problems. We can use commands, super simple. And honestly, this is just so easy to write. Like, I can't even think of what could be done better right now. Other than documentation, I think this is pretty darn good. Like, let's come back to Arc and let's come over to the docs. So let's come to the Tempest docs, because this is actually a Tempest application as well. So if we look inside app, we've got content. We've got console framework highlight slides. Ooh, 8.4. That's kind of funky. I don't know what that's for. Work in process. Oh, the container. Oh, darn it. Darn it. Needs docs. Framework, models. So all of that is actually something useful. Get content, markdown, convert. Okay, so content, front, docs controller. So we've got a docs controller, we've got the home, redirect to, self-class, show, category console, getting started, new docs view. So then if we go look at that docs view itself, what does it do? It accepts everything. It's current chapter for category, next chapter. Okay, that's pretty useful. Code download view. Ooh. Screenshot view. So we got some cool stuff going on. How much of it is being used right now? Docs. For each of this chapter category, lots of stuff going on there. So yeah, like I think, like Brent says, it is definitely very much a work in progress. Who's forked it? I'll fork it. I'm going to fork it. Tempest docs, copy the main branch only, and create fork. So overall, I think it works really, really well. It's fast. It's definitely fast. Let me just come back to PHP Storm, and we're going to remove the HTTP handler. We're just going to remove that because we don't want that right now. So we could probably clean that up a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. We're just going to delete all of those events, and we're just going to maybe restart that. Come back to Arc. Make sure that is still working as expected. Fantastic. So come back to Warp, and we are going to, don't need that. We don't need that header. And for this, we're just going to say HTTP Tempest test. Let's see how fast it is. Let's see what it does. Oh, time will tell. Let's focus in on the code though, because you don't really need to see me for this. So overall, we are only getting 700 requests a second at the minute, but maybe that is because I'm doing something funky. So let's try it on this, because I would have expected this to be faster. Let's go to that one. This might be faster because it's using the PHP built-in server instead of trying to go through Laravel herd and all of that stuff. And you can see down here, we're getting loads of logs coming in. So while that's doing that, let's go back to Arc and let's just fork this, come back to Warp. And what we're going to have is inside herd, we're just going to git clone Tempest docs. Clone all of that. Tempest docs. What we got? Okay, so we can just do like a composer install. We're going to do an npm install. Check back on this Apache benchmark. Okay, so that seems to be really slow for some reason, and I don't know why. There's got to be a reason, right? So all of that is working. So let's just go to Tempest docs.test. So it's loaded, but obviously we need to wait for npm to do its business because npm is horribly slow. No one likes npm. I don't get why. There's no reason why that would be slow. Come back to PHP Storm and let's just open this as a new project. So source files are there, herd, scroll down till I find the right thing because I've got way too many projects. This one, I'm just going to close that off. I don't want to keep that open for now, and we're just going to focus in on the docs. I'm going to cancel that, and we're just going to do this within here. I think npm install, something funky was going on. So we've got the docs, we've got the stuff. We're going to copy the env. Discovery cache is false. Perfect. So blah, blah, blah. Lots of cool stuff. Tempest docs. Then inside here, we can come to the content, come to the framework, getting started. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Create project. Text, npm run dev. Text. Acquire, template as a package. So it would be really cool if we could look at how this is built. Docs.view. I'm assuming this is one of the parent things. Base view. That's what we want. So this title is title Tempest Docs. Awesome. Main CSS that's been pulled in. Body is relative. And we've got banner, a slot, and scripts, and lots of stuff. So when we go look at the docs, what we're seeing is, why is that so slow? Come on, npm. Okay, so we've got a grid, current chapter, Tempest frame, Discord, next. So this is like the bottom part. Then we've got the body. This bit here looks like it's the, here we go, categories. Chapters for category. It's going to loop through, is current. It'd be nice if there was like subcategories as well. Like if I come to the docs here, this is super useful doing it that way. So like being able to have a little bit more here would be really useful. And I definitely think there's some design work that could be done, and I know somebody is working on it. I think I'd probably, for me, I'd focus more on the content itself and let someone actually good at that this stuff work on the design. So maybe we'll look at this. It's a standalone package used to build console applications. Give it a star on GitHub. You can install Tempest like so. So I really want to get this up and running because it's really annoying me that it's npm's just being so darn. There we go. Wow. npm run dev. So that was ridiculously slow, and I have no idea why. Reload. Perfect. So we got this. So you can install it like so. So let's come back. PHP Storm. Let's look at this get started here. This is probably not the console. So let's look at content, console, getting started, composer require. So really what we want that to be is bash. I don't think that's going to do any sort of syntax highlighting yet. It might need what maybe on Tempest docs up test. So you can install Tempest console like so. I'm assuming there's something with Tempest going on here. Schedule, clear or cache discovery files. Let's just clear the discovery. Discovery clear, cool. So then what else have we got? We've got serve. Install roots, some funky stuff going on, cool. So PHP, highlight the comment, do this, configuration, uses Tempest discovery to find where it's console commands. This means you don't have to register any commands manually, and the methods within your code base using that console command attribute will automatically be discovered by your console application. Then we show how to do that, configuration, blah, 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 interactive command, hello world. Tempest will discover all console commands with the namespace configured as a composer PSR, auto-load namespaces, as well as third-party packages that require Tempest. Okay, so that's all good. That all makes sense. Let's come down to framework, getting started. Text. What happens if we bash that? Do it. Okay. Go to text. It probably looks the same. It'd be nice if I could, maybe that's a highlighter thing, building a custom language. Okay, maybe we'll look into that later. But definitely something that could be done with the docs. Like it explains it well, but I feel like there could be just that little bit more. Controllers. So in Tempest, a controller action can be any class of method. Out of the box, the root attributes are available: root, get, and post. Any web app will soon need to validate and access request data. In Tempest, that data is available via request classes. Every public property on such a request class represents a value that's being sent from the client to the server. Tempest relies on PHP's type system to validate that data and offers a bunch of validation attributes for more fine-tuned validation. Cool. Okay, I honestly cannot think of a better way to write a lot of this right now. It just works. Okay, so custom route, section route, blah, 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 blah. As admin route. Okay, so maybe custom routes is something that we could add. So controllers, quest mapping, response objects, custom routes. Thanks to route attributes, you can make your own custom route implementation. These custom route classes can be used to make route groups that add middleware, do authorization checks, etc. Attribute. You can use this. Okay. Let's do something like, please note the attribute target should be target method, not target class. There. Let's see what it does. And refresh. Please note. Okay, so that looks crap, but it kind of does its job. Pretty sure. Where did I see something? There's some PHP inline stuff somewhere. Scaffold, blah, 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 blah. It was something like a HL or had PHP in it. There we go, yeah. So there we go. So come down to controllers down here, and we can actually highlight that specific part that I just created by saying PHP. There we go, target method, target class. That probably doesn't need to be in a quote there. There's probably a nicer way to do that. Please note The attribute target should be target method, not target class. Can't remember why. As the router will do something. Recent project, Tempest PHP. So if we look at like this API route, attribute, extend route, reflection, matching regex, set handler, serialize, unserialize. The way that it does the matching, I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if I can figure it out quickly. So Tempest, core, source. Nope. Framework, source, HTTP, header. So this get is an attribute, extends route, does some stuff. So what we want to do is maybe look at the route attribute and find usage. Parent construct, not what I'm after. Discovery maybe. Route attribute, class methods, reflection method. So when it's being discovered, we are looking for methods, public methods that will have a route attribute on it. So let's come back to here and come to documents here. As the route discovery will look for public methods that have attributes available. Something like that. There we go. Admin route, blah, blah, blah. I think that's probably about it for now. I'd possibly say like we should have that on to make sure people understand it. Attribute, target method, do your magic. You now use the admin route, do this, do that, lots of cool stuff, generating URIs, route binding. I definitely think I'm going to try and dive into the docs a little bit more to see what can be done. That I kind of got a lot of what I wanted to do done. Thank you. Thanks for joining me on this very randomly explorable journey. We will probably catch up again next week. Remember, if you want to use Tempest, it's on Discord. It's really easy to get started. You can join the Discord up here. You can visit the GitHub there. Come and read it. Go check. Make sure you follow Brent on Twitter, PHP Annotated on YouTube. Go check out any of the content around it and just get involved. It's really fun, and it's nice to see a PHP framework focusing on that modern language feature set and anything that it can do around the feature set for modern PHP, instead of kind of pulling all that legacy stuff forward and saying we still got to support it. It's nice to see it saying, no, we're using PHP attributes, we're using discovery and reflection, we're going to do it with modern PHP instead of, legacy PHP, which other frameworks are kind of tied to. So Brent, thank you. Anyone else contributing, thank you. See you on the Discord. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, the usual stuff. So if you enjoy it, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, drop a comment if you've got any feedback or want me to do something different next time. If I don't catch you, have a good weekend and catch you all later. Bye-bye.